Hey, as promised, this is just an extremely tiny CSS video that I'm recording. I figured I might as well do one very quickly, just to show you my approach to CSS, even though my approach, I'm going to honestly admit, is probably not the best approach. I would definitely look at what you learned in your CSS class through either Scott or Jessica, whoever you learned from. I would take a look at that CSS because that is definitely going to be better. I tend to write CSS just to get the job done. I don't really care what it looks like, and my CSS tends to be a bit of a dog's breakfast, but whatever. Anyways, I will provide a little bit of CSS. I'm going to style just this little Simon Says thing. So right now I've set up my example. It's all set up, ready for you guys on Tuesday and Thursday for us to go through. I have an index page here, and I have some styles in here. Right now, though, there's not very much going on. So I'm going to just put this to the left-hand side. And I only have my styles sheet open here. Just going to pull up my live server. And I'm just going to go to week 6 for myself. There we go. And I want the starter one. And I'm going to boot up my live server. If you're curious how to do the live server, there is a whole thing on it on Blackboard. I can show you in 1 second here. I'm just going to put this guy over here. The Blackboard thing is GC Blackboard. Under your client-side JavaScript. They really need to fix their own CSS, I'll say that. It's under Weekly Learning, under Resources, and it's under the fillers. There it is, fillers. And it's right here, installing live server. Now, in order to get that to work, you're going to have to install Node.js first. Then you can go through the whole tutorial on installing the live server. And there's a whole bunch of information in there on how to do it. Okay? So hopefully that helps you out. It's not really that difficult. Live server is really kind of handy to have. I don't know. I just like it because, like I'm going to show you right now, as I make style changes, it makes life a little easier because the styles update automatically on this window as I make the style changes on this window. So right now, some of this styling is being applied by the index file because I have Bootstrap in place. So this is a Bootstrap container right now, so this whole section is all being met by the Bootstrap container. I'm using a row deflex. Deflex is a flexbox style that's built into Bootstrap. Basically what it will do is it will take my 2 columns and put them side by side, which is what I want. What else? I'm using a col 6, which creates 1 6 column. I don't think I've got anything else. Yeah, I'm only using columns and that, and then the other big thing I'm using is the Jumbotron. The Jumbotron creates this gray block. And then these start buttons, I'm using the button class, button success, and button danger. And again, those are all from Bootstrap. You can go see those by just going to getbootstrap.com, go to the documentation, and then I think it's under components, I want to say. Yeah, components. And if you go to buttons, there's all the buttons, and then it gives you examples on how to actually use those buttons. For the layout stuff, it's under layout. You can go to grid, and it walks you through how to create these grids. It's pretty simple stuff. Now for the custom stuff that I'm going to do, it's a bit different. Most of it's basically the same. One of the first things I like to do, though, is fix my box sizing. So the way boxes work generally in CSS is you start with the inner part, which is your content. Then you have padding, which goes on the inside of the box. Then you have margins, which go on the outside of the box. And you have borders, which are in between the box, like the edge of where the box starts, and the margin, so it comes out this way. The problem with that is if you have a box that's 200 pixels by 200 pixels, and then you apply borders to it, whatever the size of the borders, whatever size the borders are, will increase the total box size. If you have padding in there, that can also increase the box size. And then if you have margins, that again will increase the box size. So in order to make it a little bit more predictable, so you know what your width is and what your height is, you can apply box sizing to it. So I like to do that. As far as I know, this is already built into Bootstrap, but I'm going to add it anyways. This here is a browser prefix, so each browser has its own kind of implementation of some of these CSS stylings. So it's a good idea to use some of the browser prefixes just to avoid any issues. So the idea is that it will try to use whatever one first matches, but if it can't find one, then it will just default to whatever or just not style at all. There we go. So that's WebKit, which is like Chrome, Safari, and a few others. And then there's the Moz, which is obviously the Mozilla browser, which is Firefox. And then there's box sizing, which is supposed to be the W3 standard one, which for the most part, this is implemented by almost every current browser, so not much of an issue. This is really just backwards compatibility. That's all. Not that I really care about backwards compatibility in this particular scenario. So this thing here is a selector, right? This is selecting the whole HTML element of the page. This selects everything. That's what star means. It selects absolutely everything. If we do a before is a pseudo selector that will actually select this random element before everything. And then after selects this element after everything. These things don't actually exist, but just in case they do, we're going to override all of their styling. So again, we're going to do WebKit, box sizing, inherit, like so. Moz box sizing, also inherit, and then box sizing inherit. There we go. Nothing really changes. Everything looks the same. Now you notice that bit of flash of unstyled sheets. Basically, that's caused by the live server booting. When the live server boots to the new instance, you get a little flash of unstyled content. Okay, let's do the first thing. So I'm going to use IDs to do this, to select different elements on the page. I'll just put this over here so you can kind of see what's happening here. So the first thing I want to actually style is the scoreboard. That's this part right here. There's not very much I'm going to do to the scoreboard, but there's a little bit. Let's see, where is the actual scoreboard in my thing here? Right here. This is our scoreboard. So I'm just going to use the ID scoreboard in order to interact with it. I'm going to move this off screen. Go back to my style sheet. I'm going to close that main.js file. All right, so we're going to do hashtag scoreboard, like so. Oh, actually, scoreboard has a capital B. Computers are literal, so you got to make sure you watch that. All right, I'm going to create a border at the top of it. Border top, 1 pixel, solid, hashtag CCC. So this, basically the way this works is this creates a 1 pixel border. Solid, there's a few different options. There's dashed, there's, actually I don't know the other ones. I only know solid and dashed. I think there's dotted as well. And then this is the color. You can either provide a hash color or you can provide RGB or RGBA. The hash color, if they're all the same, you can just do CCC. For example, if you have to use all 6 because the color requires that, then use all 6. All right. Border bottom is also going to be 1 pixel, solid, hashtag CCC. Go. And none of these are showing up, which is weird. And then I'm going to do padding, 1 EM, and margin top, 3 EMs. Okay, why are none of these showing up? This is very bizarre. I'm going to, if you wind up with an issue and you can't figure out what's happening, you can always go to the element itself. It's easier just to click on the element and hit inspect. Here's my scoreboard, right? And you'll notice I have no element styles currently under my scoreboard, which means that whatever I'm doing, I'm not selecting this scoreboard. So my guess is, if I reveal in the sidebar, I have the styles.css here. Here's my index page. Let me just make sure the styles.css is attached. It is. So yeah, that's really weird. Let's just make sure I've got the scoreboard. Oh, it's lowercase letters. That's why I goofed up. See, told you, computers are literal. There we go. There's our dash, our borders. I'll get rid of that. Cool. Let's style the game board now. Game board is also all lowercase letters. And the first thing I'm going to do with the game board is I want to display it on an inline grid. The only problem is you're not going to actually see anything quite yet. So before I do that, I'm just going to make it so you can see it. So we'll first style .light. We're going to give .light a height of 200 pixels, a width of 200 pixels, a transition of 0.15. So transitions are like tiny animations between one state and another. So for example, if you had .light and then .light hover, as you move your mouse over top of the thing, it will transition between the two colors. Bootstrap has it built in. As you can see, when I move over the start button, it's not like an immediate change to the other color. It actually transitions between the two color states. Very slightly, not very much. This is 0.15 of a second. It's like really, really slow. Anyways, I'm going to create a background color. Ground. I'll just select the property. Hashtag CCC, just so it shows up. And there we go. And you can see my blocks are gross and all over the place, and you can't really see where they are. Okay, now we'll style the game board. We're going to use grids to do this. So display inline grid, which is CSS grids. If you want to know more about CSS grids, you can type in CSS grid. The one I use is not that one. I'm not a big W3 Schools fan. We use the complete guide to grid under CSS tricks, and they walk you through on every possible aspect of using CSS grids to create a layout. So it's pretty fantastic. But to be honest with you, I had to look this up in order to do this as well. So border radius, we'll give 250 pixels. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm trying to make a gigantic circle. If I save it, nothing has actually happened yet. Let's do the next one. Grid gap. This is the gap between each of the cells. So I'm going to have 4 cells, one here, one here, one here, and one here. And I want a gap between them of about 20 pixels between each cell. Now if I do that, you can see the gap shows up. And I've got a wonderful gap. Now I can do grid, template, and I'm going to do columns. This is essentially how many of these elements go together. So I want 2 columns and then 2 rows. So I wind up with 4 in a row, right? So I can do that by providing the size of the columns, like so. And then that tells them where they can go. I can also do auto, I believe. Auto will also work, and I get the same result. So whatever you want. Auto is probably a little easier. Then you don't have to know the size of the certain elements. Then I still have justify content just like I would with, justify items actually. Just like I would in Flexbox, and I'm going to make these centered. And then a line, items, center, and padding of 20 pixels. There. So it just created a little bit more of a gap, and these became centered inside the game board element, because the game board element is actually kind of wide. So these are now all where I want them to be. Cool. So I have one more hashtag styling in here, and that's the message, where I'm actually going to output information to the user. Its color is hashtag, and I get these colors just so you're aware. I go to flat UI colors. It's like my go-to place. I go here and I select my colors from here. So the color I'm actually using is this one, pomegranate. And I'm just going to apply that color like so. You can't see the message because there currently isn't one. Then I'm going to apply a font size of 2 EMs, and then a font weight of bold. And again, you can't see anything. So if you wanted to know what's going on, you can always go to index, go to where the message is, and just write something in there like test and save. And then you can see what it will look like. It'll be game over is what I'm going to put in there, but whatever. Oh, I closed it off. There we go. Okay. So under lights, I have different lights. These are going to be representative of our lights inside our Simon Says game. If you haven't played Simon Says, essentially what happens is each one of these will make a tone, and then you click the tone in the pattern it does it in. Every time it plays through, you get a new light added to your pattern, and you have to make sure you click that light, and so on and so forth till you lose. And your score is based on the number of patterns you're able to complete. Not the number of lights you're able to click, but the number of total patterns, orders that you're able to complete, which is kind of neat. All right, so next we're going to do, we're going to add some styling per thing. So I'm going to do .light. Now I want to access these individually, and I don't feel like just, adding an ID to each one of these. It's kind of annoying. So I'm going to use inthChild. InthChild allows me to select a specific child element. It's kind of a bit of a misnomer because it's not actually the child, it's one of these is what it is. So it's .light and which one I want to select in the array of lights, essentially, because there's four of these with the class .light, and I want to select the first one. So I just type in 1. Then I'm going to say border top left radius, because I want to turn it into a circle. So 200 pixels. Bam, and you should get now a half moon. Kind of looks a bit like a window, or maybe a little truck. If you had wheels here, it look like a little truck. All right, and then I'm going to change the color, background color, and I'm going to make it hashtag 1B5E20. And then that will change that to a dark green, which is essentially my light off. That's my light off color. Now, if you want the light to be a different color, you can go to Flat UI and choose a different color. You can even come over here, and they have one that's like the builder. Where the heck is the builder? Oh, yeah, the material UI colors. So if you click on that one, there's all these different material UI colors, and you can change the colors, and you can also modify how dark they are, and how light they are, like pastel, so on and so forth, if you wanted to do that. But you have to go to materialcolors.co. The thing to note is that this changes all the time, see? It's like a little advertisement. So I found this accidentally one day, so materialcolors.io is what you want. Anyways, I usually do the flat UI. You can do whatever one you want. There's like different palettes depending on the country you're from, so you can choose whatever palette you're interested in. Anyways, you just select the color you want and then change that green out with whatever color it is that you want to select. All right. Anyways, I chose this color. Then I have a hover effect for it. So .hover light child 1:hover. So .hover light is a class that I'm adding to this. I'm going to be adding this class with JavaScript. Then child 1 will be obviously the same one because .hover light will get added to multiple classes that exist. And then hover is essentially the thing that we're doing over top of it. Or .light child 1.on. That is another class that I'm going to use JavaScript to fire and turn this on, basically. When it's on, I want the background color to be hashtag 00E676, like so, and you're not going to see anything because I haven't turned it on yet. If you want to see how to turn it on, go to your index file, go to where all the lights are, they're right here, and just add a class. So I'm going to add a class of on, and save, and now it's on. Or I can add a class of hover light, and the same thing, it should be, now I can hover over it. Wah, wah. And notice how it like shifts between the colors. It isn't just abrupt. That's because of the transition. All right. I'm going to do the same process for all other 3 lights. It's exactly the same. It's identical. So I'm just going to copy and paste to save myself a world of time. Bam. So this will be the 2nd light, this will be the 3rd light, and this will be the 4th light. And then I save, and there we go. We have our little grid. And you know what? I'll even be nice to you. I will show you what the end product is going to look like. So when we're done on Tuesday or Thursday, depending on which class is watching this, I'm going to click Start. See, I have to complete the entire pattern to get the point, so it's 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3. Anyways, enough of that. And then you can reset as well if you make a mistake. Like say if I just, now I got game over because I got it wrong. So I can click reset and it will just start over again. And you just play again. Anyways, that's it. Hope that helps you a little bit with some styling. Probably not a heck of a lot. But like CSS could take an entire 14 weeks as it does in the HTML and CSS class. So if you need any extra help, Slack is probably your best point of access. Otherwise, email me. Anyways, have a great weekend and a happy Thanksgiving. Cheers.